its ability, like this method of thinking makes it so that the reason and the goodness behind any exercise or any training method that you might come across or find, it makes the goodness behind those like very obvious, right? So like in this video, I'm not going to really go, there's so many perfect exercise plans out there. The people that are doing it, like they've done it and it's perfect. So there's not too much to add to it. Like you can go all the way. The how-tos are out there for everything, and like you can do it. And so this one is more of a just kind of a curiosity. Like I'm like a student of that. Like I'm a researcher of that. I went to the circus the other day, and I was realizing like I'm a student of movement, like a researcher of it. Like I know more about it than most people who move. The same way that like a doctor knows more than a football player about their body in this weird way. So like for movement, like if you're a movement person, like if you're into exercise, I'm not a teacher like that. Like this is coming from a totally different angle. Like it's a totally different angle than exercise or movement. And because of that, like you could say that like in some sense it's higher, but it's like higher the same way that like the physical therapist is higher at football than the football player is themselves. It's almost like this, it's like that outside advice of like, yeah, you know better, but because you're in a different discipline sort of thing. I think that happens to like every field. Every field has its like doctor, and the doctor to a field, or the greatest coach, is somebody that's like operating from outside the bounds of like normal. So it's like you gotta keep using that football analogy. You have like the teamwork and the players and the coaches, and you can put like encouragement into each other and positivity and regularity and training and words and even diet, stuff like that. But like a doctor can come in and from the outside like set a bone, give you steroids. Like the doctor, the medical person, like especially in terms of them doing anything like radical, like steroids, that's medical intervention. And sometimes when things are broken, the medical intervention is the most powerful thing there is to know in that sport. And so that's always going to come from people on the outside kind of studying what you're doing, like studying the thing that you do, what you do with. And everyone kind of like aspects that. It's why like you could be super good at something else, and then a person that's like a master at just reading personality can see like right through you, because they have such a deeper sense of personality, and your personality is still like what you're doing the complex art with. So there's always this like aspecting thing. So it's kind of like, it's a little bit like that. So it's figuring out like why so we're just going to go through, and you can see like, you'll start to see by thinking this way, why particular training methods work. And kind of like all this does is it proves common sense to you like scientifically. Right? Like if I explain something well enough or scientifically enough, it like forces a change in behavior. Like notice when somebody actually convinces you of something, when you're convinced of something, it changes your behavior. And so that's whenever speech causes a change in behavior, the person's acting as a outside doctor. And they're capable of saying something that you can't help but respond to because of your value system, if that makes any sense. And so yeah, that's the kind of the role of the doctor, the shaman, but it's also the role of the races. It's the role of different subgroups and cultures and all that. And it's a lot like just a multi-dimensional game of rock paper scissors. Right. So nothing new going on here, but as far as I can tell, in some sense, a total. It's just simpler. Anyway, so exercising, what are you doing, right? To know if you're doing it right, is that you're in your awareness, and things in that awareness can oscillate at different tempos. Anything can, and it can oscillate at different frequencies. So there's these frequencies in the moment, and so to look healthy, to look at your best, is that those frequencies are strong and robust. They're just there. So all you have to do to get fit is to have all these different frequencies stacked up and just kind of like actually there. Like remember that they're there, and so to remember that they're there, you just have to either move with them all the time, or if you haven't been, then you have to exercise. And so the main frequencies that people do to get them back, it looks identical to basic training and boot camp. And remember, you can do this to an insane degree and make really big progress, really big waves, become a really big person, or you can calmly kind of smooth out your weaknesses and bring up your strengths without too much intensity, right? So that's the yeah. So we'll just start with like the first wave would be to feel where your center of, not just your center of mass, right? Your center of attention, your focal point. So that's your center of mass is going to be right here. Your center of attention is going to be some combination of wherever your mind is drawn, and then wherever you want to place it, plus your physical center. All those things together is kind of like determining the focal point. So one thing that one of them that you don't control directly because it's just weight, and the other thing you don't control directly because it's the mind. So it's the thing that runs around when you try and meditate. So you're kind of stuck between those two things, that which you cannot control, which is just weight, and then that which you cannot control, which is the mind. Between that, there's a center of focus. So there's not necessarily a correct location for it. It's just where is it? And I also can put it somewhere if you want. So I'll put it like right here. Right. So when I put it right here, I'm just drawing my body and my mind. I can't control them totally, but I'm pulling them there, just an infinitesimal amount of them. I'm pulling them to that center. And so then I want to, wherever that center is, it's fine. Maybe you can keep it down here if you want to. That's fine. And it's literally wherever you want it to be. It can be any shape that you want it to be. It can be so diffuse that you don't even know where it is. It can be a dot like right, and it's just where you're holding your mind. Right, so it's like, it can be so everywhere you don't even notice it because it's just flung all over everything. Or it could be flung all over everything, but like very intensely over everything, like touching it, silky, liquidity. Right, so you can cast your mind on anywhere in your perception, or draw it in and put it anywhere and feel however you want in your body. You have like total control to feel however you want in your body. And so for this, just all of it comes along for the ride. So just put it somewhere, hold it. It can be here, it can be here, whatever. It could be you can imagine it as stretch bands between your arms and your legs. That's a cool one to imagine. That's what your mind could be, right? Anyway, so you just want to have it go up and down and get that frequency solid. So there it is, and go down with it. And they're like, oh, where was it? It was kind of awkward for me to keep my mind here as I went down. That's a weird place, so maybe let's play it with something else, right? Like maybe put the mind somewhere in the body. Jostle it up and down. Okay, there's the wave. I'm going to put mine in my heart. So then I want to get a full frequency. And I want to feel as my mind goes up and down, because that oscillation is going to have something to do with putting movement into the stuff that I can't control, which is the water. So as you move, the water in the body is going to want to slosh. So that's why like movements and stuff have a de facto rhythm to them, which you can change with your like your muscles change the direction of the water. But any movement that you have, so any movement of your attention is going to put it'll move just like the water does. And so that's where your tempo comes from. And so basic fitness is just being able to move that tempo up and down. So underweight, like if it gets too easy, yeah, just pick up something heavy or go up and down and increase the difficulty of the posture. But fundamentally, you're just looking for there's these waves that are coming through, and as they go by, at very minimum, they just go up and down. So if you go up and down with them, so I'm moving to a beat, moving to a tempo, moving to a living opponent. It's like at that base level of fitness, all you have to do is to be able to go up and down, because it's waving. And so when you're in shape is when you're already in this fluid that's going up and down. That's all fitness is. And if you're in it, then you're just okay. So people like to do, oh, okay, where is it up high? And you can slow it down, but it's just constant, undistracted, up and down. And to get like big results, you have to sweat a little bit, or do it super intensely. Like you have to do it to a degree that you remember it. And so all the different exercises you see, if you really feel them, it's like, okay, where's your awareness? It's just staying right there between the weight and the distraction. And then the mind is fundamentally being mindful of however it's moving, so it starts to make sense to be more rhythmic, to go catch and surf like larger flows. And so as you get, like if you want to get super fit, doing things on a daily cycle, like the same way that doing this up and down, like if once I do this, and really fill in and become the medium within which this wave is happening, like, and if I train this enough, you know, it's at that intensity that everybody knows where they start to get like benefit from their exercise, that strain is like increasing the you around the movement. And so basic conditioning, basic warm-up can legit just be like, notice this and spend a couple of weeks acclimating to it, figure out how to get there. Sometimes people do crazy circuit training, and it's a little ridiculous because it's like, you'll see that, like, at first you need so much pomp and circumstance and importance and passion and drive and meaning or whatever to like get into it, but ideally you just want to be at your best without the sport specific need. It's like before. Oh, anyway, no. So okay. So as you get this, that's where I was. Sorry. So you go on, and eventually you're densifying as you go up and down, and you start to like own and have this whole space as your strength around the movement. And you'll see that dudes or people, like their muscles to their charisma, like literally starts to swell up and occupy the space around their bones. Right? As you get on larger training cycles, like, oh, I do this every single day, that's creating a huge wave that spans like a day or two. And then if the training cycles do like a training cycle, then you're creating like a huge wave that's the length of the season or the length of the school year. And so doing the stuff, that discipline, and then much less going through like a larger life cycle where it's like, oh, 7 years on, 7 years off, 7 years on, that sort of thing. Like, that's why younger people are born and you're like one of these big waves, and it's like you're unconscious, and then as you get older and your wave runs out, you like actually at that point you can learn how to surf. And like, what are you surfing on? The old guys understand the energy that's coming in. The young dudes are like riding it, actually it, and the old guys are surfing it, is what's happening with that. Us to metaphorize it. So you'll do the training cycles where you're doing the exercise every other day, every 3 days, every day. And if you're doing mantras, chantings, prayers, like it becomes the space in between the words. And then if it's done regularly, like if you have a prayer rule, especially if you're like the Muslims and you pray like 6 times a day or 7 or whatever, then that regularity gives you the chance for the space between the prayers to light up. And each one of those levels is like a type of theosis in a way. So it's like when you get in shape enough that like the basic cardio training of any sport doesn't bother you because you're already occupying yourself. That's like a type of it's like a type of enlightenment. So if you do that with your emotions, which you'll notice that they just sort of cycle as well. So if you just let them cycle, then you can see the space between the emotions, and the same thing with people with prayers or whatever, or learning. Right? You study the subject so much until what the goal is that you study the subject at an interval that your mind becomes the subject. It becomes the intelligence, like creating and taking in the assignments. So all these different levels of training are like kind of doing the same thing, and they require the same, like they either work or they don't. So a lot of people try and like tweak or change the educational or the fitness systems to be better, but we kind of fundamentally lost contact with what they were there for in the first place. But yeah, that's basically just my opinion after watching a lot of exercise videos on YouTube a little bit. And I did some sports when I was younger. I have dated girls that have done yoga. See my exposure I've had to yoga. But there's basically a couple different frequencies of the way that the water could be moving, like where you might need to be best could be, anywhere. So to get in shape, this should just explore all the possible ways, and so that's going to change. So people get in better shape if you work with a partner and they introduce other movements, or like if you're watching somebody online or whatever, they can like request that you move a certain way, and that works. But what you're looking for. So you notice they'll ask you to be doing stuff like this, and if it's with a weight, you're just moving. Anytime you're doing exercise, something's going up and down, and so as it goes up and down, find the rhythm to it, and that rhythm is happening in the space of your awareness. And then if you do it enough, like the goal would be to be coming from that space of awareness, and then try hard enough that you're like sweating and exerting, and that effort kind of threads or automatically connects your body to the space around you. So people see that as an intensification of your aura. That's just your mind levels going up. It draws in more metabolism that tends to create body. So you have to go at that intensity. And so this happens automatically in any good athlete. So if it stops, like the first thing with physical therapy is to go, why? Why has it stopped? What part's not working? Where are they not able to go? It's like, oh, you see if it's a brake, and you set it, stabilize it, stay off of it, and then start moving it up and down through the medium, be it a joint or anything else, at whatever pressure it can take without it feeling like it's slowing it down. If you can put that strain and that awareness, like say if your knee was hurt, to whatever degree you can focus the mind there, right? So remember, the mind is the force of the gravity. It's the distraction. So if you reduce the distractions and you force the gravity and you put your attention in an area, you can actually get the space around the injury to become thick again, which is usually the muscles turning on. And then once you feel where that sweet spot is of like, oh, this is how I sweat, it's like, kind of like you go up and down. Just go up and down until you figure out, as gently and as calmly as possible, break a sweat. And then when you feel that, like, what is it that's making me sweat? Like, what is it that's making me sweat? Feel it as intently as possible. Like, try and do it at the bare minimum. And then feel how that's connecting to the sweat. And so your effort is running energy through your body out the pores. There's a pathway. Like your breath, your metabolism is pushing the sweat out. And so if you can find the effort that's causing the sweat and just kind of stabilize it, that's doing something like equivocating cardio. So this is pretty hard, just standing still, not impossible, but way easier to jog. So a jog or a micro movement like this is easy. You can start to feel the whole body as it moves through your sense of space. And so that's your sense of body moving through your sense of space. And your breath, you can feel your breath entering the metabolism and even being pushed out your pores. Like the pressure of the electricity is driving water out. So like right here with this micro sweat, not worrying anything about maintaining enough effort to sweat, but as calmly as focused as possible. Try and find and just be okay with that amount of effort, to where it's like, oh, okay, I'm looking for it. I'm not trying to do anything hard. I just want to be with this connection between my breath and my sweat. And like, yeah, normally that requires a lot of work, but what if you really look at it and you find it's not that hard to do something that hard if you stop defining it as difficult, right? Right? You know, a lot of people say the goal is just to be difficult, like difficult exercise. Like I was taught basically that the goal of a lot of stuff was just to be difficult. And it's like, no, things to do difficult things with the goal of making them like stupid easy. And not having any pride in it, being able to teach somebody how stupid easy it is. So that, and when you're putting energy into it, so when you stay with the wave and do rhythmic up and downs with your awareness, And remember, you can put your awareness in weak spots. Like if you want a bigger ass or you want better legs, like by all means, don't put it here, put it here. When you're doing exercise, sure. And then realize it's infinite, so you can have it everywhere. But you can definitely focus it on your problematic areas and not worry about that drawing you out of your center. I don't think. That makes stuff like squats an exercise capable of just working every part of the body depending on where you're focusing. So it's you know, you see ballet, you see dancers, it's literally thousands of these. It's just thousands of like becoming space itself, becoming rhythm itself. And it's just that, yeah, why is it that they can move so fluid? It's all yeah, there's a deeper listening sort of thing, right? Yeah. Anyway. And then once you break into that area, it's a little bit like taking a cold plunge. And if it's your first time, maybe you're like, oh, I broke a sweat. But like, once you're in it, it's no big deal. So you just stay in 20 to 40 minutes. Probably 3 times a week. And like 20 minutes 3 times a week if you're spending some time studying these systems, studying these layers, moving through them intelligently, right? Like instead of working harder and harder, like really map what's going on, map what's happening what's happening with your mind when you're fit versus what's happening with your mind when you're out of shape. Really map that, and then you do things to set out a time between 2 things and it fills up. So it's like between the squats, I'm only focusing on squats. And so it's just like I was saying in some other videos, like it's a matter of becoming aware that your body is a perception inside of a perception of space. It's a perception of body inside a perception of space. And so everything has a certain wiggle and a flow to it, like a swimming. You're kind of on the it's almost like the water itself is the laws of physics, but you're on the surface, like you are the surface. And so the surface like obeys the water and the air in terms of like what it looks like. And so it's like right in between. That's the yin and the yang line, the heaven and earth thing. It's like the surface of water. It's fundamentally water, but it is a creation of water and air, so it's just as much air as it is water, the surface. Neither of which have any boundaries within themselves. See, you start to see why it is certain drills work and what people are doing. Like the people that are like, it's hard to explain. Like I grew up like as an 80s gym rat. My parents were always at the exercise gyms, like Planet Fitness and stuff. And that whole culture, physical therapy, normal NDs, like Western medicine is part of gym culture. And they have, it's like a bizarre cult with some like really, really, really destructive beliefs about the mind-body connection and about how muscles like adapt and like what pain means and like what post-exercise soreness is and like just what it is that causes improvement. It's mega superstitions. I'll say it's way more screwed up than Scientology. Like what was it? Planet Fitness was in the news. 24-hour fitness, all those like gyms, which is the 3 sets of 10, bro. Sort of like all that stuff is you know, the science and the mentalities that all of it's based off of is all it's mental illness. It's like pure mental illness in marketing. They'll often be lacking like an actual squat rack or a pull-up bar. I was in a Planet Fitness that had no free normal squat rack and like no pull-up bar. I feel like exercising that way, like it causes brain damage. Like it changes the way that you think. And so there's an entire, I don't know, field of study of like the kinetic chain inward. Like people have the kinetic chain outward of like, oh, what are the joints doing? And there's a big kinetic chain inward of like, how is the breath connected to the body? And that kinetic chain can be super broken. And then people take that on as personality traits, even though it's no different than a bicep tear. Yeah, so there's all sorts of different oscillations, right? And so the degree to which your body can oscillate is essentially your fitness level. So it's just so to boil it down again, sorry, it's the totality of your mind, which is the mind, weight, matter, the breath in between, which is the struggle as well. The breathing is the struggle. So if you want to see the breath more, struggle, fight against something. So exercise is a good thing to fight against it first. If you want to scale it up, you can find the cosmic force of evil, and if you fight it, you can try against it. Nobody's going to complain. It's like a freebie to struggle against something external. But otherwise, you can just like do a horse stance or something. So the struggle is the breath between the body and the mind. And the center of attention is where it is. Wherever it is your center of attention, and you can see where does it want to go, what does it do naturally, what does it do if I put it in particular places, what does it do, where is it useful to be in a particular place. So wherever it is, it's good to move it in as big of a range as possible. So sometimes weights are good, or jumping, where you move your center way, way down even to your feet or below, and then in a continuous thing you move it up and you can catch it again. And that would be the extremes of that exercise. Otherwise, you're trying to map out the space and get yourself to remember and adhere to and become the degree of movement that that space can host, which is just its up and down. So that can be down into burpees, and then at different levels. So the water stays at this level. You can do it, the water's down here. The water can slosh, or you can let yourself be underwater and swim. So that's when you let yourself be, you become a thing in your awareness. So your awareness is a medium within which you're swimming. That surface between the water and the mind, or between the mind and the air, body and the mind, that surface can just be at that meeting point, or everywhere that has thingness to it. The isness is also a surface, like just existing. So the surface is all of the water. And the surface is all of the water anyway, just as much as it is all of the air. The water and the air are not mixed at all, except the surface is as much both of them. So it's just an obvious classic yin yang, and then all of this stuff from Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, true Western science. Like everyone is doing the same thing. It's just whatever keeps you excited. And again, I'm not a mover. I'm not I'm not an athlete. I'm more of a patient, an injured person. See, I don't know. I don't know if this is doing anything for me. I know all this because I breathed, I think, deeper than anybody has ever breathed on Earth. Without any assistance. Because I did all that training with that long snorkel, like a 5 or 6 foot snorkel. Years and years. So literally breathing deeper than I don't think anybody's trained that way. I couldn't find anybody that done any training like that. I looked so much, and I tried to I can't find anybody. So I think I'm the only one. So I think I breathe deeper and longer than anybody. It's just literally, right? Which has some. I think the world's symbolic. So I think doing something literally is symbolic. So symbolic, literally, I breathed deeper than anybody I know of. But I hadn't do anything crazy. It was just like a snorkel. That's all I had to put in my mouth. That's the depths and the darknesses that I had to descend to. It was like 5 feet, which was crushing. You know, I think a lot of people have to do things that are like literally crushing, literally submerged in the depths to get the same symbolic effect. So to get that level of understanding without the horror is an interesting technology, I think. Anyway, I got to sweat in. It's a pretty good workout. Just an hour.